上星期2012榮耀盼望嘅第275篇，又話牧師引述一位網上業餘地震研究專家 Dutchsins 嘅警告，由於夏威夷基拉維厄火山 Kilauea 嘅 Halemauwau Crater 火山口再次出現異常現象，當中嘅熔岩自2015年5月12日開始，就如同2011年發生嘅日本311大地震前一樣，突然開始往下沉，出現連續數日持續異常咁往下沉嘅現象。呢個現象明確咁顯示，日本東部至台灣之間嘅海域，即係西太平洋板塊嘅斷層，將會發生一次比311強2至10倍嘅大地震，將會達9級甚至10級。一旦呢個海域發生呢種程度嘅大地震，所觸發嘅海嘯將會超越311嘅程度，極可能會波及西太平洋板塊嘅沿岸地區同埋眾島嶼，包括中國沿岸城市、日本、台灣、韓國同埋其他東南亞城市。毋庸置疑，踏入2015年4月之後，全球地震同埋火山爆發突然又轉頻繁。
從上星期日火山口嘅熔岩開始突然下沉之後，由2015年5月12日截至5月19日，短短5日之內，經已發生共171次達4級以上嘅地震。尤其地震及火山爆發集中喺西太平洋板塊嘅火環地區持續發生，即係接近亞洲地區、日本、台灣、菲律賓、印尼及所羅門群島一帶。情況正顯示太平洋板塊活動正在持續增加，內部能量不斷累積，正醞釀住一次極大嘅地震，將能量釋放。其中短短5日之內，經已發生達6級以上地震4次及7.3級地震1次。5月19日，中國大陸研究單位公佈，尼泊爾早前於4月25日及5月12日分別發生嘅8.1級及7.3級大地震，累積死亡人數超過8200人，受傷人數接近2萬。其中，地震專家指出，尼泊爾強震威力驚人，引發印度板塊同埋歐亞板塊移動，造成地殼鬆動，地表出現明顯移動。靠近震央嘅西藏吉隆縣吉隆鎮、涉拉木縣足足向南移動咗約60公分，而涉拉木縣更垂直下沉咗約10公分，甚至連聖母峰嘅高度亦因尼泊爾強震降低咗2.5公分。除此之外，2015年5月14日，科學家最新研究警告，未來30年內，日本南海海槽發生地震嘅機率達到70%，而級數會達9級以上，引發嘅海嘯規模亦會超過34公尺，即約100英尺高。地震專家幾乎可以肯定係一定會發生。當地震規模達到9級以上嘅話，災情會遠遠超越311東日本大地震，幾乎可以稱為國難嘅。而且波及影響地區不單止日本，甚至整個亞洲沿岸地區。有日本大學教授警告，南海海溝平均100年左右就會發生一次大地震。若再次發生大地震，但係日本嘅死亡人數就可能高達40萬人。另一方面，參與將於5月29日上映嘅災難片《加州大地震》嘅美國多位頂級地震專家，於5月19日發出聲明，佢哋已經通過影片明確地傳達佢哋嘅研究成果。多條貫穿加州嘅地震帶都被科學家認為沉寂已久，隨時有爆發大地震嘅可能。困擾佢哋嘅問題並非呢一場大地震會否發生，而係一定會發生，只係唔知幾時。然而呢一出電影卻刻意加入咗同共濟會有極大關聯嘅場景，包括胡佛水壩同埋電影回到未來同其他眾多電影中曾使用作場景嘅隧道之用，就係加州荷里活附近上嘅天文台。呢個正係共濟會一直以嚟同自己人講說話嘅模式。除咗地震方面，又話牧師曾經警告關於火山活動嘅變化。近期太平洋板塊高危地區嘅火山活動變得更加異常。5月14日，日本跨越神奈川縣同埋靜岡縣遠景嘅火山地帶，就係箱根山，位處富士山東南部。近期箱根山周邊地區火山活動持續活躍。據日本神奈川縣溫泉地質學研究所統計，截至14日，火山性地震嘅次數便超過咗2500次。研究所表示，從4月26日開始，該地區火山性地震發生次數逐漸增多，且當日竟監測到102次火山性地震。喺5月6日，更高達369次。截至5月14日晚上7點，一日之內就發生咗178次地震。近期箱根火山嘅火山噴發同埋地殼變動等嘅活動規模，以好快嘅速度不斷增加。 5月17日，日本國土地理院日前喺主頁上發布消息稱，將神奈川縣箱根火山噴發警戒級別上調至2級。箱根山直徑約200米範圍嘅地面，與4月中旬相比，最大嘅隆起已經約12厘米。專家擔心箱根山同埋去年噴發嘅羽岳山以及富士山都屬於東日本火山群。箱根火山一旦爆發，可能引發連鎖反應，唔排除有可能會觸發富士山爆發。而家從岩漿噴出嚟嘅火山氣體有繼續增加或者溫度上升可能，咁樣會讓原本有高溫嘅地下水溫度可能會再比平常上升1000倍。當壓力增加嘅話，就可能讓火山口附近嘅岩石爆發，水蒸氣持續噴發，代表住地底岩漿仲喺度加熱。一旦壓力超過地面能夠承受，箱根山隨時有噴發嘅可能。而且箱根山實在離東京非常之近。地震專家警告，富士山周邊嘅地殼確實進入不安定嘅狀態。富士山嘅噴發就喺不久嘅未來。富士山、箱根山同埋去年噴發嘅羽岳山，東日本火山群蠢蠢欲動，日本嘅火山危機正慢慢升溫。一旦富士山爆發，將有可能應驗先知 John Paul Jackson 所預言，富士山會大爆發，導致700萬人死亡。5月13日，日本札幌發布消息，北海道十勝岳嘅小規模火山地震次數增加，一日超過106次，呼籲民眾加以防範。5月14日，哥斯達黎加火山自從月初噴發以嚟，持續進入活躍期，政府提醒人民注意安全。5月17日，印度洋西部庫爾內斯火山一直沉寂多年，但係今年已經2度爆發，火紅熔岩噴薄而出。5月18日，東太平洋智利比亞尼卡火山爆發，火焰染紅雲朵，場面壯觀。比亞尼卡火山位於智利南部，海拔2847米，屬於安第斯山脈嘅一部分，係智利最活躍嘅火山之一。5月19日，意大利埃特納火山日前再度噴發，有關當局仍採取疏散措施以策安全。5月19日，美國地質調查所警告，夏威夷大島一座基拉韋厄火山近日可能爆發，並帶嚟更多地震。基拉韋厄火山正係上星期5月17日主日信息中，由黃牧師以號外方式警告火山口熔岩出現異常下沉嘅嗰一座夏威夷火山。觀察員表示，未來數週甚至數個月，基拉韋厄火山頂峰區同埋西南裂谷區嘅地質活動都非常唔穩定。目前，基拉韋厄火山嘅岩漿庫已經累積極大壓力，隨時會喺數小時至數天之內發生火山爆發，並帶嚟更多地震。地質學家警告，近期全球各地地表活動頻繁，地震火山爆發不斷。繼智利、哥斯達黎加之後，夏威夷亦都經傳火山爆發嘅消息。毋庸置疑，近1個月嚟，尤其集中喺太平洋板塊地區，地殼活動都轉趨異常。此時此刻，我哋必須加以警惕。大地震同埋大海嘯隨時會發生。
到咗3日前嘅5月21日 ，Dutchsinse 再次發布 YouTube 影片，內容提到美國西岸出現咗極為頻繁嘅小型地震。最近呢啲板塊活動甚至導致加州南部嘅油管斷裂，但南部嘅墨西哥同北部加拿大溫哥華地區卻出奇地寧靜，即意味住墨西哥同加拿大可能已經開始醖釀一場5級以上嘅地震，所以居住喺該地區嘅人應該做好防災準備。
Hey everybody, Dutchsinse here. 12:52 a.m. Central Time on Thursday, May 21st, 2015. And I've got you looking at Earthquake 3D, which is a USGS feed of the most recent earthquakes. And you can see a new swarm has broken out down here in Southern California. And this has occurred directly at the Salton Sea volcanic buttes. And it's worthy to note that that also struck on the same day that we saw movement resume back up here in Idaho at the magma chamber for Yellowstone supervolcano. I put together a full blog post on the swarm down in Southern California about Salton Sea. I'll put a link down below to that so you can refresh up on Salton Sea if you're not familiar with the area. And the media talked about this volcano having a possible eruption which could send an ash plume cloud onto downtown San Diego if the Santa Anas are blowing right. And this comes on the heels of multiple volcanic earthquakes over the past 7 days. And you can again click through this post, which is linked down below the video, and you can follow it through to Mount Hood, Glacier Peak, Two Sisters, Mono Lake, Mammoth Mountain, Markagunt Volcanic Plateau, Bittner Butte, Salton Sea now, all showing movement over the last week and a half. That's a lot of dormant volcanic activity to see in light of the other news that was announced on May 1st, April 30th, right at the end of April, start of May, start of this month, that a new eruption is occurring along the west coast, off the coast of Oregon, at the axial seamount, right here where my mouse is. So just due east of there is the volcanic magma chamber for Yellowstone, which has showed movement over the past 24 hours. And if we take this down over the last week, you can really begin to see the activity that's occurred along the west coast. So I can just name off these areas again that showed movement all the way up here north in Washington State, Glacier Peak. It has new monitoring equipment that they're installing on Glacier Peak in case of a possible eruption. That's the professionals. They're installing new equipment there. Southeast of there, Yellowstone, showing movement at the magma chamber. Due west of there, and that's Mount Hood, showed a 3.0 earthquake. Then due south of there, right here at the northwest border of Nevada and California, that's Bittner Butte volcano. Due south of there, we have the Inyo craters, which showed movement. South of there, Mammoth Mountain showed movement. South of there, Mono Lake showed movement. And then further south along the Long Valley Caldera showed movement, terminating down here at Salton Sea with now a swarm of earthquakes developing there. Along the far coast, we saw a new pipeline rupture, which happened, oil pipeline, off the coast of Los Angeles, due west of the fracking operation that showed movement over the past several weeks. Well, just a few miles west now, the pipeline's ruptured and gone into the ocean and spilled over 10 miles worth of oil along the coastline there, guys. So is that related? I would say that the movement in Southern California that happened over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that they were denying was caused by fracking, has indeed caused surface movement. We saw this 3.8 here at the surface, 0.0 kilometer depth, and that's due north of the oil spill location. That was pretty much a natural earthquake. We can call these natural earthquakes along the coast, but the dormant volcanoes, those are all signs of greater tectonic pressure, and the fracking earthquakes that we saw last week were definitely man-made, and those were down here just in the north part of Los Angeles. Also, down here to the south, a very rare earthquake struck this past week at another dormant volcano. And to show that to you, this is not marked by the USGS. You won't find any volcano information on this location, at least on Google Earth or any other easily searchable source. We'll go ahead and put the coordinates in for the earthquake, and I'll show it to you. So this is the way you do it. You put the coordinates in from the USGS, hit search, it'll take you in on the earthquake epicenter, inspect the area, and you'll find what's around the area that stands out as rather odd. So here's our 4.0 earthquake, and we can first of all zoom in right here where the earthquake happened, and you can see the curved structure on this. This is actually part of an old volcanic field that you can make out the old cones here that make up the volcanic field. And just to the east, we have an unmarked, unnamed volcano, which may have a name somewhere, but it's at least Agua Nueva is the nearest town. USGS might have some information on that somewhere, but it's going to be hard to find. It's not easily marked like they would mark a known volcano. This is part of a larger volcanic field, and again, there's no doubt about it. You can come in and look at each one of these and inspect the area and see the old cinder cones that make up these large volcanic complexes down here in the south. This, again, large lava flow, again, undeniable. You can look that up yourself. Don't have time to get into that now. But what does that mean? It means that we saw movement happen here and to the north at the fracking operations in Fort Stockton, 3.1, 2.9 over the last 7 days. The area in between here, in between Fort Stockton and this dormant volcanic complex, a new fault line has opened up. And that was announced in 2012 and then again in 2013. The new fault line at the surface going south from Fort Stockton right towards that area. So that area moved and the area in Southern California moved. The area we were watching in between for the last 7 days did not move. We did not see activity down here in Baja California, which we would expect to normally see. So this lets us know the areas around here are moving at dormant volcanoes. Almost like an arrow pointing south, we need to watch the area just south of all this movement for a possible larger earthquake. And that would be more south near Mexico City now, since last week this whole area did not move in Gulf of California. Instead, the whole coast moved at dormant volcanoes. Another area we were watching last week for movement did not get hit with any large-scale activity, and that was off the coast of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, to the coast of Alaska, right in here. Did not move. We can expect that it should move at least now at a 5.0 level over the next 7 days. Let's hope it stays below 6. Before, we were watching for a greater than 6. Nothing struck there. Instead, it spilled down the coast at all the dormant volcanoes. That's somewhat good news to see for not a large earthquake there, but bad news to see prepping us up for other movement in the region.
喺1980年5月18日，美國西岸華盛頓州嘅聖海倫火山 Mount St. Helens 曾發生一次每日災難式大爆發，令整座火山崩塌咗一半。最可悲嘅係曾有專家作出警告，但火山附近嘅居民因為唔聽勸告而全部罹難。而加拿大嘅溫哥華就係接近聖海倫火山嘅位置，所以加拿大錫安教會嘅弟兄姊妹敬請密切留意。呢件悲劇正好俾我哋反省，現今嘅災難警報絕對唔係杞人憂天，而係有非常實在嘅災難預測證據。另外 ，Dutchson 喺影片中亦提及太平洋板塊亦不尋常地出現非常大量嘅地震活動。但同時，由日本南部至台灣南部及菲律賓嘅海洋地區，卻又出奇地寧靜。呢件事對香港而言，絕對唔係一個好消息，因為呢個意味住呢啲地區正喺度醖釀一次極龐大，可能比311更強烈嘅地震。呢一次地震甚至有可能形成龐大嘅海嘯，直接衝擊香港及其他沿海地區。
Now, let's get into the West Pacific. Over the last 7 days, there's so many earthquakes on here for me to even show you. I have to actually take this up a notch to the larger earthquakes. Before we look at the larger earthquake, let's look at the depth of the earthquakes, which are indicated by the height off the map. The higher these are, the deeper they are. So, get an idea for where the deep earthquakes occurred. Now let's go look at where the large earthquakes occurred. Okay, so now we're looking at our, greater than 5.8 earthquakes in that range. Some of these were downgraded, but this is over the last 7 days. You can see the cluster of earthquakes that developed around the deep earthquakes. And just to the northwest of the area that had the deep earthquakes is the area that's seeing the large shallow earthquakes. One lone rare earthquake down here to the south, 6.8, and that's right along the Antarctic Ridge, extending in the South Pacific Antarctic Ridge, and it's very rare to see movement down there. That only happens after we see excessive movement in the West Pacific. The whole Pacific plate is adjusting for this movement that happened over the last several weeks. We're going to look at the last 30 days in a few minutes, but right now this is just the last 7. So it's a tremendous amount of movement to see. Japan saw 6.8 in central Japan at the start of the week. We haven't seen anything develop further south since then. You can see a silent area right in the middle of all this mess here in the West Pacific. That's from the China coast, going east to Taiwan, north to Okinawa, south to Philippines. This small stretch, anytime we see all this other movement, usually compensates with either a swarm of large earthquakes or one single large earthquake. And when I say a swarm of large earthquakes, we saw 4 different 6.0s or greater pop off in Taiwan in one 24-hour period as compensation for movement that happened like this before. So we're going to have to watch again now. Again for North Philippines, Taiwan, going into South Japan for possible large-scale movement to compensate for this other activity. Also, the deep earthquakes here indicate that we're going to have to watch again for another large earthquake off the coast of Papua New Guinea, yet once again over the next 7 days, at least in that mid 6.0 level, possibly even upwards of greater than 7.0, again at this location. This is the location of now 5 different 7.0 earthquakes in the last 3 weeks. To show that all to you, let me just go ahead and turn on the USGS last 30 days of 4.5 and greater earthquakes. Again, another earthquake 3D feature that comes in really handy when you're trying to see all this other movement. You can download a copy of this for free, and I'll put a link down below to Earthquake 3D as well, so you guys can download copies. So, right now, look at all that activity over the last 30 days.
另外， Dutchsons 從人造衛星嘅圖片發現，整個美國西岸嘅地面同火山正喺度噴發大量蒸汽，呢個亦係大型地震同火山爆發嘅先兆。
One last thing I want to bring your attention to. On the screen here, if you're curious and you've made it this far in this video, you should follow this link down below. This is the one you want to go see. Tattooed, my buddy online, found something today he made a video on showing happening on the entire West Coast. And it's a series of steam plumes that are so vast and so large, indicating something's going on in the West Coast that's phenomenal. Now, what does it mean? I don't know. Is it the sign of an earthquake that's beyond measure? I don't know. Is it the sign of a coming eruption? I don't know. I don't even know. I've watched for years. This is the first time that anybody's ever seen something this big happening on the West Coast, multiple days in a row. We'll have to watch it and keep an eye out. That's why I'm so concerned at this point. With this amount of earthquakes that are happening, and the plume activity, and the other activity happening around the planet, it's just a bad combination. I wish I could give you guys some good news. I wish I could just give you an earthquake report where, hey, looks like things are finally calming down, guys. Looks like things are dying out. That will come eventually, just like it did in 2011 and 2012. But right now, we're at that height point, the serious point where people are not being warned when they should be warned. Okay? And the media is not going to tell you. So it's going to take somebody online, a friend, a loved one, someone who pays attention to these things to let you guys know that there's a greater building problem coming. So south of California and far Pacific Northwest, you guys are under the gun. And Mexico.
自從上星期嘅主日，日華牧師藉精華短片向弟兄姊妹發布地震警告後，新聞又再一次喺主日後嘅星期四報道日本鹿兒島市英島嘅昭和火山口發生爆發性噴發。鹿兒島地方氣象台表示，昭和火山口21日上午10時20分左右曾噴煙達到4300米高嘅爆發性噴發，而上午6時15分左右亦曾有高達4100米嘅爆發性噴發。據悉，一日之內觀測到2次4000多米高嘅噴煙，實屬罕見。面對以上種種災難同極為明顯嘅先兆，我哋作為基督徒更應加倍警醒，作出逃生預備，成為別人嘅答案。最後又話牧師提醒，6月1日前，如果日本至台灣及菲律賓地區發生9級以上，甚至終極嘅10級大地震，呢一次極可能就係全球性海岸線事件嘅級數。因為無論係 The Varsites Institute 或者係 Webbot 都曾預測全球性海岸線事件將會發生喺6月1日前。雖然年份有偏差，但月份係一定準確㗎。但如果地震係發生喺6月1日或之後，就應該唔係全球性海岸線事件級數嘅地震，咁樣事件有可能係再延遲一段時間。所以若果弟兄姊妹選擇6月1日前北上度假嘅話，就唔好喺6月1日或之前回港，盡可能留待6月1日後先至回港，以策安全。另外，由於現時預測太平洋板塊嘅地震點已經明顯向南移到台灣甚至菲律賓海域，所以如果有海嘯發生，對香港島所構成嘅威脅將會係最大。但新界嘅中部，例如沙田區域，危險性就下降啦。